experience at UVA in systems engineering. James Allison, will you please come forward? James is receiving his Master of Engineering degree today from the Accelerated Master's Program. He has extensive experience serving our country as a non-commissioned officer in both the United States Marines and the Virginia Army National Guard. After graduation, James will continue working as a project manager for BAE Systems, where he has worked since 2012. James.
Thank you, Professor. I'm exceptionally proud to stand before you today representing the 2016 graduating class from the UVA Accelerated Master's Program in Systems Engineering. I have served for 8 years in the Marine Corps and 6 years in the Virginia Army National Guard, and worked with nearly every branch of the military and many branches of the government during 7 years' work as a federal contractor. I've had the privilege of knowing and working with some of the finest men and women in the United States of America. That being said, I can honestly say that the UVA professors, teaching assistants, faculty, and especially my fellow AM students that I have studied, learned, and worked with over this past year, I place in the same highest regard. They are simply unparalleled. Professor Smith asked if I'd be willing to speak today. It didn't take me very long to figure out what I wanted to talk about. In fact, he told me, this is what you're going to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. The strength and the diversity of our class immediately came to mind. Now, I thought I knew a thing or two about diversity. Having served for years in the military, I've taken and even taught classes on the subject. As a civilian manager, I provide required training on diversity and tolerance to my employees on an annual basis. But as I began to write this speech in my head and really think about what that meant to me, what diversity means to me, I realized that the success of our class, the quality of our work, and indeed a good bit of what we learned came from something far greater than diversity. I've come to realize that while the military encourages diversity in its recruiting practices, and rightly so, to build the strongest fighting force the world has ever known, diversity means something different in the military. It means that everyone has an equal opportunity to conform to the same high, uncompromising military standard, and conform you will. The strength of our military comes from its ability to put aside all differences and work together in unity as a cohesive team. I remember as a recruit in Paris Island, our senior drill instructor, Sergeant Gavrila, often saying as he crossed his arms, "Recruits, there's no black, white, red, or yellow in my corps. We're all shades of green." Despite what I thought I knew, I, like many of you, am a lifelong learner. And many of the best lessons from this past year didn't come from optimization or cyber-physical systems. They came from learning through the cohort method. That means taking classes 8 to 12 hours a day, every other Friday and Saturday, and a full week in the beginning and the end of the year, with the same group of 26 students from all walks of life, learning, studying, and living with 26 outstanding people with different backgrounds, different economic, social, gender, ethnic, political, generational, and cultural backgrounds. Now, when you put 26 high-performing, strong-willed people in a small room under intense deadlines for a year, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get very close, or someone's getting stabbed in the lunchroom. No one got stabbed. Now, through all of this, I've come to realize that far more important than the strength of diversity is the power of inclusion. And this goes far beyond the tolerance of differences. It means embracing and, in fact, welcoming those differences and the rich tapestry of perspective and the experience those differences provide. We oftentimes learn the most this past year from the discussions we had, both while working on projects or in the evenings while playing pool or maybe even down at the pub having a few beers together. Often we learn the most when we disagree, sometimes resulting in passionate and heated debates. But through this all, we've become much like a family, a big, eclectic, strong, and sometimes dysfunctional family, whose conversations sometimes grew louder as the days grew longer. And this really hit home to me following a political discussion one evening with members of my project group that revolved around how many of us have anchor issues. Now, these are issues that ultimately decide what candidate we may vote for, or maybe even what candidate we would never even consider voting for in the coming elections. During this conversation, it was revealed to me that one of the members of our team was forced to endure an abusive, offensive, and sophomore work environment out of fear of losing his job due to the revelation of his sexual orientation. Now, this surprised me, and it still surprises me, as I assume that in this day and age there are protections in place to prevent this kind of discrimination, or any form of discrimination for that matter. But I've come to learn that's not always the case. This strikes me as a tragedy, that this man, who I've come to know well, and whose intelligence, his strong work ethic, and especially his compassionate spirit I've come to respect and admire, would have to suffer in silence due to the ignorance of others. What a tragedy that his company doesn't recognize the power of inclusion and all the knowledge and innovation they stand to lose as a result of their ignorance and myopic vision. Now, I won't worry about his future, neither should you. The qualities he possesses in his brand new UVA master's degree can only lead to great success for himself and every member of our class. Of that, I am sure. And I refuse to worry about a company that won't evolve and allows a work environment that is anything but supportive to its employees. They'll either evolve or slowly wither and die. But I do not worry about those that go to work. What I do worry about is those that go to work every day and endure a hostile work environment or suffer in silence because they may not have the education or the resources to be able to protect themselves or change their situation. And I can't fix everything in this world despite what I may have thought of as a young Marine. But I can offer you the benefits of my experience. And perhaps in you and I can be part of the solution. And hopefully I've imparted to you what I've learned from my classmates, that if you're not embracing the power of inclusion, then you are missing out on much of the knowledge, the beauty, and creativity that this vast world has to offer. Shades of green may be great when you're training the world's strongest military, or maybe when you're making guacamole, but not if you're painting a Van Gogh or trying to drive innovation. In conclusion, I want to say thank you to the professors and the other faculty of UVA that have graciously shared their wisdom and experience with us. I think I speak for the entire class when I say thank you to our friends and families for their support and their patience this past year when we've been gone so many Fridays and Saturdays, or even when we've been home in the evenings, but it still felt like we were absent during those many hours of homework and study sessions. This would not have been possible without your support. And finally, I want to thank my wife, who without her support, I would not have been able to accomplish all the things I have in the last 17 years. Thank you very much, and good luck.